Thank you. It took us 250,000 years to get to a population of 1 billion, and that was in the early 1800s. It took us another 125 years before we got to 2 billion. In less than 100 years, here we stand with 7 billion population. How would this planet support so many people? And that's a question everybody is asking. There are smart people here who say, but we know we have to do something about sustainability. When they talk about sustainability, what they really mean is conservation. Use less of what we have. That's not how you're going to create sustainability. Sustainability comes from creation. Create more of what you need, because we as human beings are a creature of our habit. We cannot change our habit. We want what we want, and we want more of it. So we will never be able to create a sustainable planet if we continue to focus on conservation. What we need to focus on is creation. So how do we create more of everything we need? Let's start focusing on things that we care about. Let's focus on education, healthcare, energy, shortage of water, shortage of food, and I'm going to tell you how innovation and entrepreneurship can solve each of these problems. Let's look at education. Our education system around the world is broken. People tell us we need to reinvent education system. The problem is neither the teacher nor the child. It is how we teach. If you go back to the evolution, how did our brain evolve? Our brain evolved for fundamentally two things: the survival and procreation. The way our brain actually learns information, that's not how we teach today. If you want to reinvent the education system, you have to go back to the neuroscience and how does brain learn. You can go back and say, can we develop a multi-model, the multi-sensory device that can actually teach in a way that human brain processes information? What if we are able to have a video game that is as effective as a private tutor and as addictive as the most interesting video game? What if, instead of computer teaching the child creates an avatar that becomes his friend, and the child actually teaches the avatar, and avatar competes, and avatar is the one that's graded? It takes away the social pressure. Nobody's going to, if avatar gets some questions wrong, you don't come back and say, I have a complete moron as an avatar. Or you don't come back and say, I'm a complete moron. What you simply say is, what is it that I did not get right? I'm going to go back, learn, and teach again. And if we start to do that, think about it. One day, a child is going to come to the mother and say, Mom, can I just play one more hour of math? Can you just let me do one more hour of science? Because I enjoy it so much. That's how we're going to change the education system. Our whole system is today broken because we have this concept of fixed time variable learning. That means we get everybody 6 months to learn. Some people learn a little, they get A, and some people learn nothing and they get D. And guess what happens? We move them on to the next grade. Why can't we make it, instead of fixed time variable learning, make it a fixed learning variable time? That means everybody has to learn equivalent of an A before they can move on. It's like a video game. You can't go to a level 2 unless you complete the level 1. It doesn't matter whether it takes 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years. You complete and you move on. Now, let's talk about healthcare. How are we going to completely change healthcare? Our healthcare system is broken, and it's broken because our system is broken. Today, we have a fee-for-service business where the doctors, patient, and insurance company, their things are not aligned. Their interests are not aligned. In a fee-for-service business, the doctor's interest, it's not a healthcare, it's a disease care system. That means if you are continues to be well and you don't go see the doctor, how is the doctor going to make money? So he has no incentive to keep you well. So think about if we can come back and let's talk about diagnosis. There are 1 billion people around the world that have no access to health care. How are we going to provide access to 1 billion people? What if a tablet device that now costs $25, What if we can build an artificial intelligence system and have the sensors that can be used by a village girl, a minimally educated girl around the world, to be able to diagnose the diseases? She'll be able to go door to door and able to diagnose the diseases where there are no healthcare, there is no hospitals, there are no doctors. All of these problems look like the infrastructure problems. If you're going to go out and solve big problems, you have to convert them into a knowledge gap. The education, the healthcare, it is not about infrastructure, it's simply about knowledge. And if we can provide that knowledge on a tablet device to a village girl who can become a doctor, and as opposed to getting abused every day, she's going to become a village doctor and be respected. She's going to create a business around it, because you can give these devices for $1 a month to this girl, and she can charge 10 cents per patient and build a business around that. This is how we're going to solve big problems. You say, but what about energy? What about the carbon? You know, the global warming and all those things are happening. And I say, that's great. Let's put some great innovators and entrepreneurs to it. What if you can create a synthetic bacteria that can take the carbon dioxide from the air and the salt water that we already have and use the solar to create the salt water and carbon dioxide into a fossil fuel, and it excretes a fossil fuel. So you're going to have the more of the fuel you need, and it's going to suck the carbon dioxide outside the things and use the salt water that we have plentiful. You say, what about the food? Think about it. Today, we use 70% of our land for cattle raising. What if we can create a biofactories where you're able to grow beef exactly the same way the nature does? And instead of raising cows, you take the stem cell and convert all stem cells into just the muscle tissues, so you're not wasting anything. You don't need the bones, you don't need the eyes, you don't need the liver, you don't need the heart. You take the stem cell, convert them to the muscle tissues. Think about that. What if water? The water. A majority of our water today is used for agriculture. What if we can change the seeds? We can genetically modify the seed to use the salt water, so we don't have to use the fresh water that we need. What if we have plentiful of energy that we can convert, desalinize the oceans and have as much of water as we need? The fact is, there's none of these problems that I'm talking about are imagination. All the underlying technology exists today. If there's one message I can give you, when you leave here, don't ask. Every time you see a problem, people always ask the same question. Why doesn't someone do something about it? I want you to go from here, and next time when somebody says something, you say, why can't I do something about it? And the day you take the control of that thing, you take control of your own destiny, you will be able to change the world. And I know we as an entrepreneur will change the world, because we as entrepreneurs, we don't see the problems. We don't just see the solution. We go out and do something about it. The person who sees the problem is a human being. The person who finds a solution is a visionary. And the person who goes out and solves the problem is an entrepreneur. So go out, be an entrepreneur, solve the problem. Remember, you can't create $1 billion company by solving $1 million problem. So go out and solve a $10 billion problem, and it so happen to be a big social problem. So go make yourself proud and go make the country proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain.